Good day and welcome to another edition of the Daily Fix. I am your usual host and presenter, Advocate Thule Hoya. It's all systems go in the Senzo Meyiwa trial for Monday morning, the 22nd of September, when the trial resumes and we all expect the defense case to get underway. There are some very interesting developments which have just come to my attention from sources close to the trial, to the defense team, to the effect that it is going to be a very explosive opening because of the very interesting witnesses that the defense is subpoenaing to appear before the Pretoria High Court. The most important witness that has been subpoenaed, I'm informed, will be none other than Kelly Khumalo himself. You'll recall that on the day that the defense closed his case, Advocate Nisi stood up to inquire or to clarify issues going forward as to what would happen to those witnesses that the defense had not called up. And George Baloyi, the prosecutor, stood up and immediately informed the court that it follows that if they have not called witnesses, those witnesses are now available to the defense. So Kelly Khumalo will be the first such witness who will be available to the defense after being subpoenaed or being served with a subpoena to appear before court. Now, let us look at Kelly Khumalo before I go to the next witness. Let us look at Kelly Khumalo and say to ourselves, what will be the significance of Kelly Khumalo being subpoenaed or appearing before the Pretoria High Court? This is the reason and why her appearance there will be of utmost significance. The first thing being that you'll recall that at the beginning of this trial, Kelly Khumalo was presented to the court through a summary of facts presented by the prosecution and read into the record as a witness, as a victim rather, because she had been robbed of a cell phone, count 3 in the indictment or charge sheet. That is how Kelly Khumalo was introduced by the prosecution in this case. She did not form part of the list she was part of the list of witnesses, but was eventually not called, something which was not totally unexpected under the circumstances. In spite of the fact that the witness list had her as a witness to the robbery charge, the prosecution ended up not calling her, for the simple reason that the prosecution case uniquely, mutated along the way. Her status now mutated from that of being a victim of a robbery to being a mastermind, all in the space of one trial. Kininda fingered her under cross-examination by the defense counsels that this was in fact a contract killing. So this trial is quite, fascinating and has got, shocking dimensions to it. Because at one stage, a person is presented as a victim of a robbery that possibly went wrong and culminated in the death of Senzo Meyiwa. And in the same trial, that same witness is now portrayed as the mastermind of the very crime that was committed on her. Because you see, there are several crimes that were committed here. There was the murder of Senzo Meyiwa. There was the robbery of a cell phone from Kelly Khumalo. She then mutates into this monster now who is the mastermind. And yet this mastermind is supposed also to be a victim from whom a cell phone was robbed. So what is the narrative here? What does this tell us? What does what are all these mutations telling us about the prosecution? They are telling us that the prosecution is not too sure what it is doing here. This case cannot be a robbery gone wrong and a contract killing all rolled into one. We are not just going to assume, because the prosecution tells us so, that this is no longer a robbery gone wrong, it is now a contract killing. Just like that, things don't work that way. Things just don't work that way. How does it change from being a robbery gone wrong into a contract killing? So Kelly Khumalo is central to all this. You know, her status has to be clarified. Right? If a cell phone was actually robbed from her, she must come before the Pretoria High Court and testify about that. If she's the mastermind, which thing now Gininda, with the acquiescence of Baloyi, now wants us to believe. So let it be. But the most crucial thing for the prosecution to do, for the defense rather to do, is to find out exactly what she is in this trial. How does she feature in this trial? Is she a victim of a robbery, or is she the mastermind? And the starting point should be, let us look at the victim story. You see, it is said that you are a victim of a robbery in terms of count 3. This is how the defense must proceed. But you have not been called as a witness. You have not testified to that robbery, to that charge, where you actually robbed of a cell phone. What sort of cell phone and under what circumstances? If she was a victim. If, on the other hand, she happens also to be the mastermind of a crime in which she is in fact one of the victims, that must also be clarified. Whether she, instigated this whole thing, contracted, whoever she contracted to kill Senzo Meyiwa, she must come out clearly to say some of these things and clarify them for the court. Like I said earlier on, she cannot be both a victim, and the chief perpetrator of the crime as the mastermind. So this is the crucial role that Kelly Khumalo will be playing as a defense witness to clarify some of these issues. Now, the next witness that I understand is lined up will be Warrant Officer Makubu. Warrant Officer Makubu is still employed by the South African Police Service. He has appeared before the Pretoria High Court during the trial within a trial. You remember when he refuted, among other things, he refuted the fact that Brigadier Gininda was the lead investigator, and Makubu was adamant that none of them were ever designated with the title of lead investigator. They were all equal, they were all on the same rank. So he was surprised that Gininda was putting himself up as the lead investigator in this trial. The significance of Warrant Makubu is that he opened the docket 375 in 2019, 5 years after the death of Senzo Meyiwa. Now, Warrant Officer Makubuli important to come up with the reasons why in the first place, why he had to open a second docket when there was already a docket in existence, right? So he'll have to explain all those things and who the people that he was charging in docket 375 are. So it all looks like it's going to be a very explosive, beginning to the defense trial next week. I'll be bringing you some analysis also over the weekend of how the defense case is likely to shape up. But having said that, let me thank you for watching this video. Let me thank you for all the views, subscriptions, and shares that I'm seeing. And have a wonderful, wonderful day.